Bono getting taken down by The Edge, brotherly feuds, and who's fighting who's. These bands exemplified the rockers' creed of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, though they also added beat the crap out of each other to the list as well. On May 20th, 1966, The Who were slated to play at the Ricky Tick Club, but Keith Moon and John Entwistle showed up 2 hours late. Moon and Entwistle had been out drinking with Beach Boys vocalist Bruce Johnston, who was The Who's guest. Roger Daltrey and Pete Townsend had started the party without them, recruiting members of the opening act, Jimmy Brown Sound, to replace Moon and Entwistle. The overdue Who members ousted their replacements mid-show. Discord ensued as Moon and Townsend sniped at each other, and when the drunken drummer wrecked his kit, a cymbal bashed Townsend on the leg. Townsend, apparently intent on guitar jousting with a speaker, missed his target and struck the percussionist. As Townsend wrote in his autobiography, "I lost my grip on the instrument, and it just caught him on the head." The hits that followed weren't accidents. Bruce Johnston called it, quote, "the biggest fight I've ever seen." Moon walked away with an ankle injury, stitches, and a black eye. He and Entwistle soon announced that they were walking away from the band altogether, but the hard feelings over the blow-up blew over, and they reunited. Sibling band members and oft-arch rivals Liam and Noel Gallagher of the band Oasis had a famously tumultuous relationship. The Gallaghers' open displays of hostility include Noel pummeling Liam for questioning the paternity of Noel's son, Liam heckling Noel while the latter performed, Noel refusing to let Liam perform with Oasis, Liam cracking Noel over the head with a cricket bat, and Liam drunkenly peeing on Noel's new stereo.
Don't forget, he was a kid who hung out in his bedroom. That sound system was important to him.
Mate, that was a holy grail, yeah.
Yeah, and it
But when you got to go, mate.
And then, of course, there was the tambourine. It happened in 1994 on Oasis's first American tour. During a gig at Whiskey A Go Go, the band was allegedly under the influence and messing up the show in spectacular fashion. Liam had a go at his brother by altering the lyrics of Live Forever to say, "Maybe I don't really want to know why you pick your nose." He then picked a fight with his brother by smacking him on the head with a tambourine. Noel quit, but before long, the brothers were back together and back at war. As 80s hair band veterans, Poison's band members were no more a stranger to controversy than anyone else working in their genre. Poison, though, had a slightly greater tendency than their peers to throw down with each other on stage, beginning with a legendary scrap at the 1991 MTV Video Music Awards. There, singer Bret Michaels and guitarist CeCe DeVille beat the holy hell out of each other backstage after DeVille drunkenly launched into the wrong song during their set. History sort of repeated itself in 2006 when Michaels got into an onstage argument with bassist Bobby Dahl during a concert in Atlanta. In between their set closer and the encore, the pair got into a testy exchange which ended with Dahl slinging his instrument at Michaels, who then had to be restrained by drummer Ricky Rocket and the security crew. Confusingly, Michaels then told the audience they may have just seen the band perform for the last time, immediately followed by Dahl picking up the mic and asking if they wanted to hear more. The Kinks, led by brothers Ray and Dave Davies, were known to get a wee bit annoyed with each other.
There's always rivalry, tension between people who are related, but that sometimes helps music.
Their most famous and consequential onstage fight, though, took place between Dave and drummer Mick Avery, who completely lost it one infamous night in Cardiff in 1965. Speaking with Wales Online in 2010, Ray Davies remembered that his brother and Avery had gotten into a physical fight the previous day. When Davies needled Avery in front of thousands of fans, gently suggesting that his drumming might sound better if he played the snare with a private part, Avery tried taking Davies' head off with a cymbal, inflicting a wound that required 16 stitches. Ray Davies recalled that when the police caught up with Avery, who had promptly fled the venue, he somewhat hilariously tried to deny involvement, to which the cops responded, "Mr. Avery, we've got 5,000 witnesses." Davies declined to press charges, but the fallout was significant. Hearing of the incident, the American Federation of Musicians banned the Kinks from playing in the US for 4 years, crippling their career. The Eagles had their share of intra-band tensions, and the most public expressions of disquiet within the band seemed to involve the late, great guitarist and vocalist Glenn Frey. During a show in 1977, Frey ended up getting punched on stage by bassist Randy Meisner, who quit the band a few months later. The band's most famous fight, though, was one that just barely remained a verbal altercation between Frey and lead guitarist Don Felder at a fundraiser for Senator Alan Cranston in 1980. Frey felt that Felder had disrespected the senator during their meet and greet, and late in their gig, the two began trading verbal shots. In the 1995 biography, The Long Run, The Story of the Eagles, Frey recalled, "So now we're on stage, and Felder looks back at me and says, 'Only 3 more songs till I kick your ass, pal.' And I'm saying, great, I can't wait. A backstage screaming match ensued, Felder smashed his guitar against a wall and stormed out, and the Eagles broke up not long after, at least for the first time. Over the years, the Brian Jonestown Massacre's ever-shifting lineup has pretty much served as a vehicle for frontman Anton Newcomb's vision, and when a piece isn't fitting quite right, he's not shy about saying so. A 2023 gig in Melbourne, Australia, saw Newcomb go straight up ballistic on guitarist Ryan Van Crete for reasons that remain unclear. In the middle of the show, Newcomb abruptly demanded that Van Crete's mic be cut, directed him to unplug his guitar, and spat, "We don't really need you." Van Crete wandered around for a bit before apparently attempting to confront Newcomb, who promptly smacked Van Crete upside the head with his own guitar. Chaos ensued, the show ended prematurely, and the band ended up canceling its remaining Australian dates. After Jane's Addiction broke up in 1991, frontman Perry Farrell occupied himself with other projects, notably founding the Lollapalooza Music Festival and forming a second legendary alternative rock band in Porno for Pyros, but he reconvened Jane's Addiction on several occasions. Unfortunately, their 2024 US tour hit an early snag when Farrell came completely unglued during a show in Boston. The band was in the middle of a song when Farrell became visibly frustrated. Farrell's wife, Eddie Lau, would later explain that the singer felt that his vocals were being drowned out by the band's volume, and was particularly peeved at guitarist Dave Navarro for leading the crowd in a chant. Farrell's frustration quickly boiled over, and he charged Navarro, body-checking him and throwing a punch before being restrained by bassist Eric Avery and security personnel. The show abruptly ended, and in the aftermath, the band canceled the remaining 15 dates on its tour. Scottish rockers The View formed in 2005 and followed an enviable career trajectory. The View broke up in 2017, but have reconvened in recent years to hit the road, and, on at least one occasion, each other. During a 2023 show in Manchester, lead singer Kyle Falconer became rather annoyed with bassist Kieran Webster, throwing a punch at him and stopping the show cold midway through. In an interview with the Scottish Sun a couple months later, the singer himself didn't rightly remember why he threw the punch, saying, "I completely lost the plot. I feel out of control sometimes. I feel like my brain never switches off, but sometimes it's like, give me a break." A London date was cancelled, but the band resumed touring in November, quickly moving past what they called a, quote, brotherly bust-up that went too far. In early 2005, singer Pete Doherty was having a bit of a rough time. He had recently been kicked out of his successful band, the Libertines, on account of substance misuse issues.
In my honeymoon period with crack and heroin, basically, thinking that I could handle everything and do this stuff.
He was also due to an incident involving a filmmaker who was documenting the formation of his new band Babyshambles, facing charges of robbery and blackmail, though those charges were eventually dropped. In February, the new outfit was playing a gig in front of 5,000 fans at Brixton Academy in London when things threatened to go even further sideways. Just 2 songs into the set, the band had to stop to implore the crowd to please stop surging forward and squishing the people in the front. The band pushed on through this tense atmosphere, but at one point, Doherty appeared to unplug guitarist Patrick Walden's axe, causing the two to come to blows. Security intervened and ushered the band off stage, but thankfully, it was a brief intermission. 5 minutes later, they returned and miraculously skated through the rest of their set without further incident. In 1980, the members of U2 were just a bunch of Irish boys trying to make an impact with a series of dates at small venues in the US. In an interview with journalist Jonathan Ross in 2009, guitarist The Edge recalled that the band all felt pressured to make every gig a memorable one, and that one date in New Haven, Connecticut ended up being memorable for quite the wrong reason. During the show, drummer Larry Mullen's drum kit came apart, but lead singer Bono wasn't aware what was happening and became furious that Mullen had stopped playing. Bono came after his hapless drummer, only to find out that his guitarist wasn't having it.
The Edge just cut me with one. Did you enjoy hitting him? Was it a good feeling at the time?
In their autobiography, U2 by U2, the singer elaborated on the incident, writing, "It was actually a full-on rumble, with all members of the band whacking at me, and me whacking at them, but Edge packs a punch." Jesus and Mary Chain, the legendary brainchild of brothers Jim and William Reed, has picked up its mantle in recent years, coming together for live dates in the late aughts, and even dropping the comeback album Damage and Joy in 2017. This is something of a minor miracle, considering the incident that facilitated their breakup in 1998. Speaking with Yahoo Entertainment in 2022, Jim Reed remembered how he and his brother, along with guitarist Ben Lurie, had been at each other's throats while touring the US in support of their 1998 album Monkey. As tensions grew, Jim binge drank, and by the time the band was scheduled to hit the stage at LA's House of Blues, he was in serious trouble, recalling, "I had totally forgotten where I was. I saw William and I just started screaming all sorts of abuse at him. And then suddenly I looked around and I realized we were on stage." The embarrassing blowout was the last straw for a band already teetering on the brink, and they didn't play together again until a reunion at Coachella 9 years later. Aussie rockers The Vines rode the garage rock revival of the early aughts to a fair degree of success. Unfortunately, it was only a few months after the release of the album Highly Evolved that lead singer Craig Nichols began to establish his personal reputation for being something of a prima donna by instigating a brutal fight on stage with his childhood friend and bassist Patrick Matthews. The band was mid-song when Matthews busted a string on his bass, which prompted Nichols to start whipping his microphone around, striking Matthews in the head with it. Matthews responded by tackling Nichols, and the pair toppled right off the stage and into the audience in the middle of their impromptu MMA match. The band cited exhaustion as the cause of the scrap. After playing one more show in Chicago, they flew back home to rest and get their stuff together, and all of their scheduled dates outside of their homeland were summarily canceled.